Everyone needs time alone, a quiet room, a moment without noise, a pause from the demands of others. In small doses, solitude can be calming. It helps the mind settle. It gives space to breathe. But something changes when being alone is no longer a choice. When solitude arrives uninvited, when it stretches longer than expected, when there is no clear end. At that point, isolation becomes something else entirely. When a person is confined to a single space for long periods of time, days, weeks, months, sometimes years, the body reacts first. Stress hormones rise. The nervous system stays alert, waiting for danger that never arrives. What begins as stress slowly becomes a permanent state, and the mind was never built for that. Human beings rely on others more than we realize, not just for companionship, but for confirmation. Conversation helps us check our thoughts against reality. A shared look, a response, a small correction. Without that feedback, the mind begins to fold inward. Thoughts echo, doubts grow louder, emotions take control. This is when depression can take root, when obsessive thoughts appear, when despair begins to feel logical. Over time, prolonged isolation doesn't just affect emotions. It changes the brain itself. The part of the brain responsible for fear and stress becomes overactive, always scanning, always tense. At the same time, the areas responsible for reasoning, judgment, and memory begin to weaken. This imbalance pushes people toward emotional reactions rather than thoughtful ones. Anger becomes quicker. Fear feels constant. Concentration becomes difficult. The body follows the mind. Sleep loses its rhythm. Time feels distorted. Some people forget what day it is. Others struggle to remember recent conversations. Physical symptoms appear. Headaches, heart palpitations, dizziness. Appetite fades. Weight drops. The body, like the mind, begins to shut down non-essential functions. People try to cope. They exercise in small spaces. They read the same pages repeatedly. They write even when no one will read their words. These efforts help, but only to a point, because humans are not meant to endure life without purpose or connection. This is why many medical professionals and human rights organizations classify prolonged isolation as psychological torture, not because it leaves marks on the body, but because it quietly dismantles the person inside. Despite what we know, solitary confinement remains common. In some places, people spend most of their day alone in small rooms. Minimal light, minimal interaction, often not for violent acts, sometimes for minor rule violations. And many of those placed in isolation already struggle with mental illness. Isolation does not correct that. It deepens it. The effects don't end when confinement ends. People who experience prolonged isolation are far more likely to develop post-traumatic stress. They struggle to trust, to concentrate, to feel safe in ordinary situations. Re-entering society becomes another form of isolation. Some countries have chosen a different path. They focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Education instead of deprivation, connection instead of control. And the results are clear. Lower violence, lower reoffending, better reintegration. It turns out that people tend to improve when they are treated like people. Isolation teaches us something important. Humans do not heal alone. We grow, stabilize, and recover together. And when we deny connection, we don't just punish individuals. We weaken the fabric that holds us all.